Hello, this is Robert Stearns. Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in. I really believe that learning is one of the greatest joys in life. And one of the greatest ways to learn is simply to have meaningful conversations, both with those who come from a similar background as yours, as well as those whose background might be very different. So my hope is that as we connect and converse with leaders from all around the world, that we will learn and grow together. If you're new with us, hit the subscribe button and we'll deliver the new episodes to you right away. So wherever you are, on a run, in the car, at the kitchen table with some coffee, welcome to the conversation. And welcome indeed, everybody. It is Thursday evening. It is that incredible time of the week that we get to come together for Bishop and the Rabbi, and thrilled to have you here. If you could do me a favor right now, sign in, tell us who you are and where you're watching from. And if it's your first or second time with us, just let us know that you're a visitor. We'll want to greet everybody in just a moment, so go ahead right now and sign in. Let me tell you the obvious. We are not in our normal studio tonight. This is the studio that I have at the church. So we're coming to you live from Orchard Park, from the Tabernacle. And we've got a little bit of issue going on technically tonight. So you might have an echo. If you have an echo, just think to yourself, how wonderful is it that I get to hear Robert Stearns not just once, but twice tonight? You're just going to get that double portion effect, okay? We're doing our best to get rid of the echo, but if it's there a little bit, hopefully you can ignore it and we can still have a meaningful evening. I hope you're doing well. We have survived some snow up here in Buffalo, but all is doing well. I'm looking forward to everything that we have coming forward with us this evening. And so glad to see a lot of you starting to sign in. Go ahead and sign in quickly. Hit the share button when you do. So that we can continue to grow what is a historic phenomenon. We cannot take for granted that you and I are living in an age of miracles. We're living in the time of the regathering of the exiles. The Jewish people, against all odds, have come home from 106 nations of the earth. The state of Israel has been reborn. We've talked about just recently that the tribe of Manasseh has been found in India and repatriated, brought back home to Israel. The Falasha Jews in Ethiopia, even as we speak, the Ethiopian Jews are making this incredible trip back to their homeland. The embassy has been moved to Jerusalem, the American embassy, signaling a new era in Middle Eastern geopolitics. And we're going to talk tonight to someone who probably knows more about the reality of the political landscape of the Middle East, probably than anyone else. An extraordinary guest that we have with us tonight. I'm going to introduce him in a moment. But you are a part of that miracle when you as a Christian set your heart to love Jerusalem, to stand unconditionally and without agenda with the Jewish people, and to understand that together we must fight forces of extremism in our world wherever they are. A lot of times it's easy to point fingers at the other, but certainly we understand that extremism takes many different forms and many different faces. And we believe that God is a God of love and that he calls us to that commandment that says, love God and love your neighbor as yourself. I was thinking today of all of the biblical injunctions in the Hebrew Bible that talk about welcoming the other, welcoming the stranger. And I thought to myself, what does that look like on a Sunday morning at a church? What does that look like in a Christian? How do we actively welcome the stranger? God puts a huge priority on welcoming the other, honoring the stranger. So lots to talk about this evening. Okay, let's very quickly see who's here, and then we're going to welcome our amazing guest. Terry, wonderful to see you. Crown Heights, Brooklyn is here. Amherst, New York is here. Columbus, Indiana. Fort Myers, Florida. Buffalo, New York. Seattle, Washington. Anaheim, California. Baltimore, Maryland. New York City is in the house. Texas is here with us. Orchard Park, I know where that is. There we go. Wendy Miller, God bless you. More Buffalo, New York. Geneva, New York. Bolingbrook, Illinois. Boyertown, Pennsylvania. Folks in from all across the nation. Hit the share button. Let's get the room filled up. And also, of course, we simultaneously are running on YouTube. I'm unable to do two screens at once for Facebook and YouTube. Carter and Nancy are with us from Alabama. Carter, I'm looking forward to having lunch with you on Monday. You and Nancy and your family. And so yes, okay, so I hope you're being able to hear. Can you hear me? And I hope the echo is not too bad. I really apologize if it is. Someone has said that they rebooted, but now it's fine. So hopefully that is the case. Type it and let me know that you can hear and that everything is okay. All right, somebody's telling us yes, so we are good to go. Couple quick announcements, very quickly. Number one, we are heading back to Israel. I want you to go to awakejerusalem.com, awakejerusalem.com or org? awakejerusalem.com for our Israel trip. We're leaving in September, so it's time for you to register. I hope many of you will join me. It'll be our first time back as a ministry in 3 years. So join me this September in Jerusalem. Go to awakejerusalem.com to register. And be sure that you are a part of that. Also, Torah Tuesday with Mark Gerson is continuing every week. We have well over 100 people every week, Jews and Christians, studying Torah together every Tuesday at 12. So tune into TorahTuesdays.com to get the link and be involved in that incredible ongoing Bible study that is happening. Okay, folks are telling me that you can hear me now, so that is super helpful. Okay, loud and clear. Wonderful. Thank you, Lord. Folks, for years, I would hear about this amazing rabbi, Rabbi Marc Schneier. I would be in this meeting and that meeting, and people would speak of him with such incredible respect that he was a leader of leaders, a rabbi of rabbis. They would talk about the vibrant community of faith that he brought forth in the Hamptons, where there was no Orthodox, sustained Jewish presence. And he brought forth an incredible synagogue, a community of faith there. And then for years, labored in racial reconciliation. He's one of the definitive experts on the life of Dr. Martin Luther King. Has done many events with the King family and with the King Center. Written books on Dr. King's life. And then, if this was not enough, Dayenu, if this was not enough, he took on the challenge as a rabbi, an Orthodox rabbi, of building bridges of friendship with the moderate and open-minded Muslim world. And at great risk to his reputation and just at great risk of misunderstanding, he traveled deep into Middle Eastern nations and earned the respect of the crowned heads of the Muslim world. And much of what we have seen under the last administration with the Abraham Accords, the peace treaties that have been signed between Israel and several of her Arab neighbors, much of this work would not have happened if all of the groundwork and all of the difficult friendship diplomacy had not happened through our guest. So I heard of this man, this myth, this legend. I heard of him for years. And then one day, in God's grace, he attended our Jerusalem prayer banquet when we honored Kathy Lee Gifford. And we connected that evening. And I have to tell you, one of the greatest blessings of my life is my friendship and my brotherhood with our guest tonight. He is our family's rabbi. He just oversaw the B'nai Mitzvah of Michael and Daniel, was held at his synagogue in the Hamptons. And he is our dearest friend here with the Eagles Wings community. Would you welcome Rabbi Marc Schneier? Rabbi, welcome to Bishop and the Rabbi.
Thank you, Robert. I'm glad we recorded that introduction. I have to send it out to my congregation. I love
it. Well, Rabbi, I have to tell you, though it is a superfluous introduction, it is a real and heartfelt introduction. You have a birthday coming up, and we are all wishing you a mazel tov and a happy birthday. And I can see that our dear friends, the Levins, have joined us tonight. Carol and Jerry Levin are with us, and our love to the Levins. And I think I also saw Pastor Craig Pridgeon on, and wonderful to have Pastor Pridgeon with us as well. But Rabbi, I have to say, you're in your 60s, and you do not stop. I mean, you are a man on a mission. And it's very difficult for me to be around people who I look at and think that their schedule is crazy and that they're doing so much, because that's what people always say about me. Mm-hmm. But Rabbi, you are driven by a vision of a vibrant Judaism and a vibrant Israel that really can live in peaceful coexistence with the modern world, and you've given your life to this beautiful vision. Tell us what inspires you.
Well, the state of Israel is my magnificent obsession. It's my preoccupation. With the grace of God, I have been put in some very unique and singular positions and platforms to work for the betterment of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. First and foremost, I'm blessed by having the most extraordinary congregation and synagogue in the United States. I see the Hampton Synagogue as the most prestigious rabbinic pulpit of any Orthodox congregation in America. And in terms of my connectivity and my unique relationships in the Arab and Muslim world, be it in the Gulf, among the rulers and the kings and the crown princes of the 6 Gulf states, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Oman. In Central Asia, in fact, you joined me with the most distinguished group of evangelical pastors on that historic visit to Azerbaijan.
Yes.
My work there with President Aliyev in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, even my relationship in Turkey with President Erdogan that I was very helpful most recent. There was some tension between Israel and Turkey that I was able to be of assistance and of help. But that's my focus, that's my lane. How can I use and channel all these God-given gifts in terms of my platforms, my various positions, and how can I channel for the betterment of the Jewish people and the state of Israel? So I feel very blessed, as I mentioned to you before, that at a certain age, when you do celebrate a birthday, you not only celebrate an addition. Life's arithmetic is not very simple. You also have to mark a subtraction in terms of how many more years you have to live. And a friend of mine just last week made a profound comment to me. He said, Rabbi, you know when you're getting older, when your regrets outnumber your dreams. I have very few regrets, Robert, but I have a multitude. I have an awesome multitude of dreams for the Hampton Synagogue, for my congregation, for the strengthening of Muslim-Jewish relations. That's been my mission now for 20 years. How to find the path to narrow the gap, the chasm, the divide between 16 million Jews and 1.6 billion Muslims. And today we're beginning to see the fruits of that labor. And before I pioneered global field of Muslim-Jewish relations, I led the efforts in the restoration of the historic Black-Jewish alliance in the United States. Last weekend, we marked the birthday anniversary of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And during the civil rights struggle, there was no segment of American society that provided as much and as consistent support to Dr. King and to American Blacks as did the Jewish community. Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, after Dr. King's assassination, that relationship spiraled downward. But today, I would define the Black-Jewish relationship as one of cooperation and not one of conflict. And I feel very, very blessed to have led that effort of reconciliation and rapprochement between Blacks and Jews here in the U.S.
Well, and we're getting ready soon to take our next group of pastors over to Israel. You have been so supportive of that effort, as have the Levins who are watching tonight and other generous donors. And we're growing that relationship by bringing young African-American pastors. Usually almost a third of our pastors who come with us are African-American pastors. And it's so important. But Rabbi, I want to go back to a comment you made about 20 years of labor to see this dream of this chasm, minimized and a bridge built. And I have to say this, I know that the success that you've had is not based on you having a great program or having a great strategy. It's based on you being a great person and a great leader. When my sons had their bar mitzvah at your synagogue and you opened the doors, you welcomed, you said I'm gonna have to explain to some rabbis why I've got the bishop's son's bar mitzvah coming up. You said I'll have to talk through that. But we got down there for the weekend and we arrived early to get everything set up, etc. And I mean, any other situation, I can fully imagine that someone would have said, oh, I'm going to send my assistant to run through everything. I'm going to send an assistant to care for it. You came out, you spent an exorbitant amount of time with my two young teenage sons. You walked through everything with them carefully. You engaged them in conversation. In fact, you got with them online even earlier before we went down. You personally invested your heart into my children. And it would have been expected of me that you would have delegated that to an associate and you would have just showed up to perform the ceremony, and I would have been honored by that. But that is the kind of person you are. And I think that change happens when people live and build trust. And that's what you do.
Well, first and foremost, it's a testament to our abiding friendship. You were very gracious and generous. Speaking of our friendship and brotherhood, I've always said to friends and colleagues, Robert Stearns is the brother I never had. So it's very, very much a tribute to this very, very intimate and very close relationship we have. That's number one. And number two, I pride myself as being a good pastor. Yes, I have all these involvements. I'm constantly traveling. I'm all over the globe. I'm all over the world. But everyone knows that my congregation comes first. I could be in Azerbaijan. I could be in Saudi Arabia. If someone sneezes, if someone's under the weather, God forbid, someone's in the hospital, I will drop anything and everything to reach out to that person. And that's who I am. First, I'm blessed to be the 18th generation of rabbis in my family.
Now, folks, I want you to hear what he just said. He is the 18th generation of rabbis. Can you imagine that? A rabbinic dynasty going back 18 generations. Incredible.
And then when I was ordained at Yeshiva University in 1983 by the venerated rabbinic figure, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik, there were 43 of us who graduated that year. Of the 43, 38 years later, Robert, I'm the only one left in the rabbinate. The only one left. And if you don't have that profound commitment
right.
to your congregation, to your flock, to your community, then you shouldn't be in the rabbinate. I absolutely adore my congregation. I wake up every morning, I think I'm the happiest, luckiest guy on earth. And, I even have shared this with senior rabbinic students and other assistants that I've had over the years. I recall several years ago, I'm in Manama, the capital of Bahrain. I'm literally walking up the steps into the palace to meet King Hamad. And my assistant back in New York, I get a text. She doesn't necessarily know where I am every minute. Rabbi, you forgot, and this is off season now, in March. Rabbi, you forgot to approve this week's Kiddush menu. Now, I'm walking in to see the King of Bahrain. I'm the only rabbi ever to visit that palace. And I'm getting a text about the Kiddush, but it's that text that is really the foundation of my life. Look, it's wonderful to have these relationships with all these heads of state in the Senate, Congress, presidents, you name it. But what brings me the greatest joy is my congregation. We are building the first JCC in the history of the Hamptons. The legendary artist, Dale Chihuly, has agreed to create and design the glass for the new JCC. It's the first synagogue project, the only synagogue project of his lifetime. Because my tagline at the synagogue is, we make the ordinary extraordinary. And I'm very grateful for the privilege God has given me in terms of building a global movement, in terms of Muslim-Jewish relations, in terms of repairing and restoring Black-Jewish relations. But professionally, my absolute love is for my congregation. It's just a love affair that we all have. And I'm very, very blessed. And that has brought me so much joy and happiness and fulfillment to be the spiritual leader of the Hampton Synagogue.
Well, and Rabbi, I came at this the opposite way than you, because for me, Eagles Wings began before I came into my position as bishop at the Tabernacle. But I certainly can say that I share with you that sense of incredible fulfillment and joy from walking with the people of God, walking alongside a spiritual family, a covenantal family, brings a richness to life that is second to none.
Robert,
hurry on, Rabbi, because we've got to get to the Parsha. But
fine, but just one more point. Think of the unique privilege that I have. I'm now turning 63. I founded this congregation, this community 32 years ago. And building this JCC, which is exclusively for children, how many rabbis and pastors and ministers have the unique privilege of being able to reinvent the congregation?
right,
Meaning, typically, those of us in the clergy, when we hit, our 60s, will ride off into the sunset, as the congregation gets older.
right,
We are now in the process of transferring the Hampton Synagogue at its peak
right.
to the next generation by building this unparalleled facility. What a privilege for me to go through this process, the second incarnation of
Yes,
Hampton Synagogue.
I love it. I absolutely love it. It's incredible. And Rabbi, you welcome us to kind of be adjunct members of that congregation through your weekly television broadcast, which is now the most widely watched Jewish broadcast on planet Earth. It's your weekly sermon. How do they get connected and tuned into your weekly sermon?
It's 200,000 homes that are now watching us every Shabbat, Friday night, and Saturday. You can either go to NBC Comcast or JBS TV, the Jewish Broadcasting Service. But on NBC Comcast nationally, it's channel 1684. But you're right, it's unprecedented. 200,000 homes, only listening to my sermon. But Robert, being the great musicologist you are, how blessed. We have the Pavarotti of the Jewish world.
Your
choir, the whole thing.
Unmatched. There's simply you literally feel like you are in a heavenly experience. And so folks, tune in. We will get those into the comments. Is it jbs.tv, Rabbi?
No, it's jbstv.org.
Okay. JBS
Jewish Broadcasting Service, jbstv.org. They have the list of channels, but through NBC Comcast, we are televised to over 75 million homes across the United States every Friday evening and Saturday for Shabbat.
So folks, tune in and be a part, be an extended part of Rabbi Schneier's influence, of his family, of his congregation, because this is truly one of the great, great leaders and lights of our generation.
Thank you.
Rabbi, the basis of all of this, and how absolutely appropriate, we say b'shert, how appropriate that in the will of God, it would be tonight that you would be with us. Because tonight's Parsha, if we had to pick one Parsha that absolutely draws together and encapsulates the foundation of the Jewish people, it is this Parsha. We're in Parsha Yitro. Folks, if you're following along, that is Exodus chapter 18, verse 1 through 20, verse 23. So Exodus 18:1 through 20:23. There's so much richness in this parsha there. Luis has got it in there. Thank you, Luis. Luis, be in touch with our office this week. Amy Cummins is trying to reach you. So Luis, get in touch with our office and get in touch with Amy. Good to see Luis from Boston. Good to see Trisha Miller on tonight from Camera. Camera is the wonderful Jewish organization monitoring media in the Middle East. And I'll see her this week as well in some meetings. Folks, hit the share button. The room is filling up wonderfully, but hit the share button and let's continue to fill the room up tonight. Rabbi, we've got so much to get through, but let's just zero in on this foundational cornerstone of humanity known as the Ten Commandments, the Decalogue. This is this moment, the Sinai moment. Moses receives these instructions from God, ethical monotheism is birthed, and mankind is given by God a written instruction list of how they relate to him and to one another. Take us through your teaching on the Ten Commandments.
Well, two introductory remarks to this week's portion. First, it happens to be my bar mitzvah portion. So this Shabbat at the Hampton Synagogue, we're going to be celebrating the 50th anniversary of bar mitzvah. All right, that's one. Second, Robert, you were lamenting before about the echo. According to Jewish tradition, when God proclaimed the Ten Commandments, there was this profound echo. So if you ever had an echo on one of your programs, this would be the portion to reenact Revelation at Sinai.
Brilliant.
But seriously speaking, the Ten Commandments, the giving of the Ten Commandments, the most decisive event in all of history.
Right.
And it was that incandescent moment when God proclaimed the Ten Commandments amidst thunder, lightning, as I mentioned, echoes, and proclaiming the fundamental teachings of our faith and our respective faiths. I often speak to you, my brother, of our common faith,
right,
and our common fate.
Yes.
And how our single destiny only strengthens our bonds of concern, compassion, and caring for each other. But these are the fundamental teachings of our faith. Number one, absolute monotheism, uncompromising opposition to idolatry, the holiness of the Sabbath, the sanctity of human life, and the inviolable rights of our neighbors. I mean, these are the fundamental teachings of the Ten Commandments, and the moment was massive, as so were the laws to which it gave birth.
Rabbi, there was a lot of drama around this because tragically, Moses is having this extraordinary spiritual encounter that one can only imagine. But the Jewish people, they've come out of Egypt, but a lot of Egypt is still in them. And
Correct.
They're engaging in the sin of the golden calf. So Moses comes down and the commandments are smashed. And tell us about these two sets of commandments.
Well, first, as you pointed out, the Israelites had lived in Egypt for 400 years. 210 of the 400 years, they were slaves. God miraculously delivered them from slavery. We just read last week about the miraculous deliverance at the Red Sea, the crossing of the Red Sea.
Nachshon got in the water and the sea parted.
Yeah, right. Nachshon took the plunge.
Yep.
He took the plunge. And we believe at the time, the Torah speaks of more than 600,000 men that witnessed the revelation, the giving of the Ten Commandments. But in terms of families, about 3 million people witness this historic singular event. But one can also needs to be somewhat empathetic, not only sympathetic, empathetic to a group of 3 million slaves who are suddenly taken into the wilderness. They hear the very impactful, dramatic voice of God, and they panic. But by breaking up this topic of the breaking of the tablets, Robert, you're allowing me to share with you and with your audience probably one of my favorite teachings. In fact, I'm going to speak about it in person at the synagogue on Saturday. Moses ascends the mountain, is given the tablets. He descends the mountain, comes down from the summit. He sees the Israelites dancing around the golden calf. He's enraged. He shatters. He breaks the two tablets. God is ready to destroy the Jewish people. Moses pleads on their behalf. Once again, Moses ascends the mountain. He comes down with a second set of tablets. And listen to what the Torah, what the Bible has to say. The second time, it says, when Moses came down the mountain, his face was radiating with light.
Right.
All right? Ki karan or panav. In fact, Michelangelo mistakenly interpreted the word karan not as ki karan or panav, not that, that the face was radiating with light, but the word karan can also mean horns.
Right.
That's where that whole anti-Semitic trope of Jews having horns actually came from, which of course is no basis. But you have to ask yourself the question, Robert, why the second time is Moses' face radiating with light, but not the first time? There's no mention of that the first time.
Really? Okay.
And listen to this. You will never forget this conversation. And I invite you, Robert, to use this wonderful biblical lesson in all your sermons and sermonettes and rallies, whatever. If you need to contrast the processes of Moses receiving the tablets. Robert, the first time he goes up the mountain, he literally puts his hands out. God places the tablets in his hands, and then he is instructed to bring them to the Jewish people. But Robert, what happened the second time? The second time Moses ascends the mountain, this time God instructs Moses in Hebrew, Moses, this time you're going to have to work for these 10 commandments. This time you're going to have to literally carve the stone and hew the tablets with your bare hands.
Right.
Not that you're just going to put out your hands and it's going to be gifted to you. You're going to have to work for it this time. And it's such a profound lesson. It's such a profound teaching that in life, when things come easy, you inherit something, things are just automatically given to you. You don't have that inner glow. You don't have that inner satisfaction and fulfillment. When do you have the light radiating? When you work for something.
Wow.
When you work for something. Mm-hmm. When you have to use your bare hands. Mm-hmm. When the labor is tedious. Moses literally had to fashion these stones with his bare hands. Only then, the second time, the Torah says that Moses' face was radiating with light because that was a result of his own work and his own having literally to fight and to work for those tablets. And that's so true. I'm sure it's true in your life. It's true in my life. When I think of, you spoke about the 18 generations. All right, I was destined to follow a certain path to my professional rabbinate. Mm-hmm. And I was following that path. I was not fulfilled. It was only when I went out to the Hamptons and I decided with others to literally build and fashion this community with the help of God, with our bare hands. People ask, why does Marc Schneier radiate so much light? Where's that inner glow coming from? Because what we built in the Hamptons, we had to work for.
Yes.
We had to build it with our own two hands. It's not a congregation that we inherited that was built 100 years ago.
Right.
All right. And when I look at all the families, I know that, Carol and Jerry Levin are on the call. Carol is the president of the congregation. Even what we're doing now, building the JCC. All right. As you know, the Hampton Synagogue, there is this light. There is this glow that emanates from that sanctuary because we had to work for it, we fought for it. That's the lesson of the two sets of tablets. The first set, Moses had absolutely nothing to do. They were handed to him. The second time, he had to work for it. And that's why his face was radiating with light.
We live in a world of such convenience,
Correct.
such instantaneous gratification, and in a world of extraordinary distraction where we just flip through and scroll through. And the simple message of cultivating a work ethic and giving your life to mission and finding out of that place of mission an incredible sense of raison d'etre, of a purpose for life, is absolutely extraordinary.
Robert, I see the way that you speak about eagle's wings, and whether it's at the tabernacle, whether it's at a Buffalo Celebrate Israel Columbus, whether it's in Jerusalem, the way you speak about eagle's wings, you should see the light that is radiating, simply radiating from you, both inner and outer. You know why? It's your baby.
Mm-hmm.
All right, you built it with the help of others, but you built it. It was your vision. It was your dream.
Mm-hmm.
And you know how precious and how fulfilling that is. And when you have that fulfillment, it is expressed through the light that radiates from us.
Folks, we're having an amazing conversation tonight with someone who I genuinely believe is a gift from God to our generation. I wish you could have been, and some of you were with me. I'm scrolling through. I know that Jim and Natalie Newman are on tonight. They were at the bar mitzvah. Probably others. I'm going through. Daniela was at the bar mitzvah. When you are at this synagogue, the sense of the holiness, the sacredness, the presence of God is so absolutely extraordinary. And Rabbi Schneier has taken that power, that connection, and brought it all over the world as he moves in mission among business leaders, governmental leaders, kings, heads of state all around the world. Rabbi, our time is slipping away. We've got some amazing questions here, and I don't know where you want to go. We talked about why 10 commandments. You know, there's 12 tribes. Why isn't there 12 commandments? Why are we down to 10? Is this a foreshadowing of David Letterman's top 10 list? What was going on here?
Well, you know, 10 is a very significant number in Judaism. You have the 10 generations between Adam and Noah. You have the 10 generations between Noah and Abraham.
Okay.
Remember that God wanted to see 10 righteous individuals,
Right.
not to destroy the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. The 10 trials of Abraham. To have a traditional minyan, a quorum, to conduct a service, you need 10 men. We just finished reading the 10 plagues that God visited upon the ancient Egyptians. There's so many examples of 10, but we also believe in Judaism that God created the world with 10 utterances. You'll find the word Vayomer, and God said, mentioned 10 times.
Wow.
So that the 10 commandments was really the creation, the birth, the foundation of the Jewish people. So just as you needed 10, God needed 10 utterances to create the world, he needed the 10 commandments to create, to fashion, to formulate the Jewish people as well.
So in Bereshit, you're saying that even though there were 7 days of creation, that in the midst of those 7 days, you're saying that there were 10 utterances.
Correct. That God said, Vayomer. God said, the word Vayomer is mentioned 10 times. And in our tradition, we believe it was those 10 utterances by God that helped formulate and fashion and create the world. And that, in essence, is what the 10 Commandments was to the Jewish people. And then, to Christianity and to Islam, to all Abrahamic traditions. But it was a form of creation at Mount Sinai to mirror the 10 utterances that God used to create the world.
Rabbi, I've heard it said that God's words created the world, and our words create our world. And so it's so important how we speak. It's so important what we focus on, what we meditate on. Proverbs says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. And so the importance of words.
Yeah, the importance of words and the importance of listening. Even the way God created us, Robert, the divine architect, we should remember he created us with only one mouth, but 2 ears.
That's it.
All right, so we have to be very careful. The tongue is in a very slippery place, and we have to be very careful how we use it.
Rabbi, how many times a year, in what ways is the 10 Commandments focused on within the Jewish liturgy? Is it just this one time a year during the Parsha?
No, it's 3 times a year. It's this weekend in the book of Exodus, in the Parsha of Yitro. Then we find it in the book of Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy is a review. It's an encapsulation of what took place in the prior 4 books. And then one of the 3 major festivals, Shavuot, celebrates. It's known as Zaman Matan Toratenu. It's the season of the giving of the Torah, when we reenact on Shavuot revelation at Sinai, so that we actually read the 10 Commandments 3 times a year, in addition to the fact that many people have invited the 10 Commandments to be part of their daily morning prayers.
And Rabbi, as we draw to a close tonight, talk to us about the 10 Commandments are really, you said, divided into 2 sections. One is about, you take it from there.
Well, the first 5 really deal with those commandments between humankind and God. The first commandment, I am the Lord, the God, in fact, absolute monotheism.
Right.
Opposition to idolatry, that deals between humankind and God. Respecting one's parents. We believe that there are 3 partners in birth, in creation of any human being: the mother, the father, and God. Even the 5th commandment, of observing and remembering the Sabbath, is more between us and God. The other 5, speak about not committing murder, adultery, again, the sanctity of human life, marriage, the inviolable rights, thou shalt not covet, what your neighbor has. That's more about different laws between, as we would say, between man and man,
Right.
Within the confines of humanity. And you should know that in Judaism, unlike Christianity, the rabbis in the Talmud conclude that it is far more important to be ethical, to be moral, and to be respectful to your fellow human being than to believe in God.
Mm-hmm.
Belief in God is secondary to how you conduct yourself when it comes to your fellow human being. It's different than Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
So that it's not that the second 5 are any less important than the first 5. In fact, we also believe in Judaism that all 613 commandments in the Torah, in the Bible, are of equal weight. What might appear to you as a secondary, little law,
Right.
should be treated, as much as the 603 laws need to be revered and respected and observed as much as the Big Ten,
Right.
the top 10. We
Right.
believe that all laws have that equal weight.
Folks, we're having an incredible time tonight. It's drawing to a close. If you have not yet done this, would you hit the share button? Hit the share button for us. We want to grow this global movement of Jerusalem-centered Christianity. We want to understand, what did the early followers of Jesus, who did not identify as Christians, they understood themselves within the pale of Judaism. How did they live their life? What were their prayers? What were their holidays? How did they view Scripture? We really want to not only have faith in Jesus, we want to know the faith of Jesus and his early followers. And you can make a difference by hitting the share button and spreading the word. You can also make a difference by becoming a monthly partner with Eagle's Wings. If you've not yet become a monthly partner, could you make a commitment now at the beginning of this new year? Our vision is vast. God is opening doors. Today, we got an email from a pastor in Guam, of all places. I have to look it up on a map. I don't know where Guam is, but he said, I want to come into alliance with Eagle's Wings. I want the message of the day of prayer for the peace of Jerusalem, all of this to come throughout the nation of Guam. And this pastor is flying to Israel to meet me on our next trip. We've just been arranging this today. Folks, we are making a difference all around the world together. And I promise you, it is you sending in $25 a month, $50 a month, $10 a month, whatever it is. Our monthly partners are what keep us moving forward. Go to eagleswings.org/donate. eagleswings.org/donate. And let me know that you're standing with me so that I can prepare for these open doors that are in front of us in 2022. Rabbi, before we leave, you raised one point before we went on the air, and you were talking about the difference of, and this is just so fascinating to us because we are all, Rabbi, we are falling in love with Shabbat. There is a movement within Christianity that is honoring and celebrating Shabbat. In fact, I would love if you are celebrating Shabbat, if you're lighting candles on Shabbat, just type in, I'm celebrating Shabbat. Type in that you're lighting the candles. But Rabbi, tell us, you said there's two nuances, one in Deuteronomy, one in Exodus. Give that to us about the Shabbat.
Well, the actual text of the Ten Commandments in the book of Exodus that we're reading, the Shabbat, says Zachor, to remember the Sabbath. In Deuteronomy, it says not Zachor, but Shamor, which means to guard the Sabbath. And the question is obvious. There has to be only one text that is recording God's word, but our sages conclude that what is inconceivable to the human mind, nevertheless, that God uttered remembrance and also in terms of guarding and observing the Sabbath. But let's remember, if someone were to ask you, what is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar? The answer is the Sabbath. It's not Yom Kippur. It's not Rosh Hashanah. It's not Passover. It is the Sabbath. And it's the Sabbath that has kept the Jewish people, has sustained the Jewish people for more than 3,500 years in the most, even in the most horrific conditions in the Warsaw Ghetto and Auschwitz. You read of different groups of Jewish prisoners who do anything to light a Sabbath candle, to enjoy a slice of the challah, to recite Kiddush, to sanctify the Sabbath over a cup of wine. And how privileged we are in this generation. We are the blessed generation.
Yes.
Where, because of the state of Israel has literally chartered a new and more dignified role for the Jewish people. And I often say that more than Israel has taken the Jew out of the diaspora, it has taken the diaspora out of the Jew. And if for 3,500 years, under some of the most forbidding circumstances that our parents, grandparents, ancestors were able to keep the Sabbath, today, in this privileged generation, we must intensify our commitment, our dedication to remembering the Sabbath, to guarding the Sabbath. That's our responsibility, not only because it's one of the top 10, the fourth commandment, but it is the Sabbath that has clearly distinguished the Jewish people and the Jewish nation. And what a blessing it is for us to have every week this holy and sacred day in our midst.
Well, and as we have reminded everyone, the concept of Shabbat, and I say this with the deepest of respect, it didn't originate at Sinai. It was codified, it was put in writing, but Shabbat goes back to creation itself. Shabbat is God's gift to creation and a reflection of his nature. God himself said, I'm going to rest, and he invites us into that place of rest. And it's incredible to see all those who are lighting the candles on Shabbat every week. Rabbi,
we say that in the Kiddush every Friday night. Zecher l'maaseh Breshit. The Sabbath is a remembrance of the act of creation.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Rabbi, I know that so many are going to want to follow you. I know that you're on Twitter, and so they can find you there at what?
That's a very good question. That's what I have a staff for.
No, for you.
All right. Yeah, if you can look it up for me. I know on Facebook, my professional page is Rabbi Marc Schneier.
All right. And on Twitter, you're at Rabbi M. Schneier, and that's SCHNEIER. And on Facebook, you can find Rabbi at Rabbi Marc Schneier, and that's Mark with a C, ladies and gentlemen. Mark with a C. Rabbi, maybe.
Yeah. And then Eastern Standard Time every Friday night, 7:30 and 10:30. Saturday morning, 11 a.m. and 2:30 p.m. Please tune in, watch what we consider to be the most magnificent, majestic Shabbat services in America today. Again, jbstv.org if you need to find the listing of the channels, if you want to go online, or on NBC, Comcast, throughout the United States, every major city and market, it's channel 1684.
Rabbi, it's been phenomenal to see you. I look forward to speaking with you very, very soon on wonderful projects that we will continue to do together.
Looking forward.
My sons hope to come visit this summer to see you again in the Hamptons. Our love to your beautiful wife, Simi, and your entire family and the entire congregation. Rabbi, thank you from the bottom of our hearts for taking your valuable time tonight. We're so grateful.
Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, Robert. Shabbat Shalom to everyone.
God bless everyone, and remember, keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem. Good night, everyone.